प्रसार भारती अभिलेखागार की प्रस्तुति सदाबहार सुनहरे दौर का अनमोल खजाना।
Hello. As we celebrate the golden jubilee of Indian independence, it is interesting to travel back to the first decade after the independence of India. Around the year 1957, one sees a distinct turn in the way serious filmmakers start addressing some basic issues of the country within the mainstream film production context. A lot of senior narrative masters emerge around that time. And yet, it seems to have taken them 10 years to come out of the freedom fighting mode and start asking a very basic question as to what does it constitute to be an Indian? And in the typical mainstream manner, they go to the last step first. And they start asking this basic question, and that is, what does it constitute to be a good Indian?
जिस घर के लोगों को सुबह झगड़ते देखा है, शाम हुई के घर वही उजड़ते देखा है। अरे बनती नहीं है बात झगड़े से कभी यारो, बनते बनते बात को बिगड़ते देखा है। अरे हम पंछी एक डाल के
As can be seen in this excerpt from Hum Panchi Ek Dal Ke, the question is, who are the friends, who are the enemies? And it is in this process of answering these questions that an entire moral framework was going to be processed out for the future of Indian popular cinema, all of course in the most unintended manner.
बोली अपनी अपनी बोले जी बोले हाँ संग संग डोले जी संग संग डोले हम पंछी एक डाल के
See, I would consider the 50s to be a period of one of great romanticism, and so it is immediate post-independent period. Filmmakers sort of join hands with the thinking of the people and the politicians at that time. You know, we had tremendous amount of hope and aspirations for a new nation, and so some of the themes which the filmmakers tackled in their own romantic way, you know, even though they were problems of great social interest, the problems of interest to the, problems of the people of that time, like the juvenile delinquency in the city, or about the shelter of the migrated rural people to the city, like what Raj Kapoor did in Avara and C420. No, the problems were real, but then the way they tackled was in their own romantic way, you know, within the framework of the entertainment film, with a lot of songs and a kind of a hope which even when Mehboob made Mother India, it is a very interesting picture of the Indian woman.
Top on the list of such national films would be Mother India, appropriately made in 1957. It tells the saga of a mother trying to raise her family against all odds, natural and unnatural. Mehboob Khan produces and directs his epochal Mother India, starring Nargis, with music by Naushad, and the film is composed on the lines of a synthesis between Pudovkin's socialist Mother, John Ford's idealist Grapes of Wrath, and mixed with the romanticism of Gone with the Wind. The structure of the film fluctuates between these positions as it sees the rise of Nargis, Mother India, coming into the households as an ordinary bride and rising to become the mother of the village and then the nation. It is interesting to see how Mehboob Khan works out his own indigenous variety of socialism and nationhood while professing to be a communist at heart. Many filmmakers profess themselves to be left of center, probably as a fallout of the socialist policy pursued by Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. It was Pandit Nehru's brand of socialism which was going to influence a lot of these filmmakers as the country moved towards the 60s.
And also it was a period of some new attitude towards cinema. The cinema of the earlier period, which was so much theatrical and of course song and dance. For the first time we saw people within the framework of popular filmmaking, like I could particularly mention Gurudutt, who, working within this commercial and popular film framework, he brought in a new kind of mise-en-scène to the Indian cinema. The first time we see the short takings and using the space and the depth and the use of locations, not in a kind of a pictorial sense, but in a real down-to-earth sense, as a part of the milieu of the characters.
Even the highly calm and collected Satyajit Ray came out with a powerful film on the role of women in Indian society in a film called Devi. He attacks the root of superstition which virtually eat away the foundation of a family and a good home.
আর যদি মরে যেতাম তাহলে খুব ভালো হতো। ওরে ভালো হতো, তাহলে গল্প বলতো কে শুনি? মা। আর কাজল পরিয়ে দিত কে? মা।
The other great giant was Bimal Roy, whose Do Bigha Zameen literally heralded the possibility of an indigenous kind of poetic realism in Indian cinema.
बाप के बगीचा है, खड़े खड़े क्या देख रहा है? फुलवाड़ी है क्या?
Bimal Roy's Devdas is certainly a different mold than the one seen earlier in the grim tragedy of K.L. Saigal. It does not have the expressionistic vision of a P.C. Barua, but Bimal Roy manages to give it a realistic touch, and along with the inspired performance of Dilip Kumar, this version of Devdas sets new standards. Undoubtedly, Dilip Kumar was soon becoming the new filmmaker's delight.
सांस ले सकूं और ऐसी जगह से उठकर जाने की ताकत नहीं है ना, तभी तो यहाँ पड़ा रहता हूँ, बस देखता रहता हूँ तुम्हारे मुंह की तरफ, तो भी मैं बिल्कुल बेहोश नहीं होता।
मैं कौन हूँ? तू अछूत है। अछूत?
In Sujata, Bimal Roy takes up the theme of untouchability and narrates the dilemma of a girl who has been brought up in an upper caste household, although she was born of a lower caste.
Now, during this period, there were all these bright, very, very intelligent people. And I'll just mention Bimal Roy, who had his very big tradition of camera work, learning there and so on, so on. Came to Bombay. Raj Kapoor had film in his blood, as if it were. I mean, he was a second generation, third generation of artists and so on. And they would see that there was a new audience, there was a new, and so on and so on. But the new film could not be a complete breakaway from the old. And therefore, I'm trying to recall the tremendous impact which was made on everyone when they saw the kind of lighting Raj Kapoor could do. Immediately after independence, one thing what the national government did is to build up contacts with the other nations, diplomatic relations. And so one of the important events which took place in 1952, January, was the first International Film Festival, where we in India, the audiences, particularly the filmmakers were exposed to films from Europe and the erstwhile Soviet Union and Japan. Till that time, the cinema which was familiar to Indian, foreign cinema which was familiar to Indian audiences and the filmmakers was the American cinema.
Undoubtedly, the International Film Festival concept, which was initiated in 1952 by the Government of India, was to have far-reaching consequences, as filmmakers could meet and see each other's films from all over the world. And directors like Bimal Roy, Mehboob Khan and Raj Kapoor benefited deeply from these festivals. Traveling abroad gave them greater confidence and a touch of vindication that they were making reasonably good films, even though they were popular and catered to the tastes of the box office, as is evident in this scene from Jis Desh Mein Ganga Behti Hai by Raj Kapoor.
माफ कीजिए, नमस्ते का जवाब इस तरह नहीं, इस तरह देते हैं जी। पुलिस वाले की नमस्ते का भी कमाल है। इस बात का तो फैसला हो चुका है जी। सरदार जी ने और उनकी बेटी ने मेरी गंगा जी की कसम का विश्वास भी कर लिया है जी।
आवारा हूँ या गर्दिश में हूँ, आसमान का तारा हूँ।
Raj Kapoor blended the burlesque, the brash macho chauvinistic temperament with an innocence of a circus clown. And with this unique combination, he set about a virulent attack on the hypocrisy of the new Indian society, trying to come into grips with self-management.
घर बार नहीं, संसार नहीं, मुझसे किसी को प्यार नहीं, मुझसे किसी को प्यार नहीं। उस पार किसी से मिलने का इकरार नहीं, मुझसे किसी को प्यार नहीं, मुझसे किसी को प्यार नहीं। सुनसान नगर अनजान डगर का प्यारा हूँ, आवारा हूँ, आवारा हूँ या गर्दिश में हूँ, आसमान का तारा हूँ।
On the other hand, Raj Kapoor, with his Chaplinesque image and assisted by fine scriptwriters, came up with some very powerful films like Avara, Boot Polish and Jagte Raho. With his own style, he managed to achieve something very few Indian filmmakers in the mainstream cinema have managed to achieve. In Jagte Raho, he even collaborates with two renowned figures of the leftist theatre group based in Calcutta, playwright Shambhu Mitra and music director Shalil Chaudhary. It narrates the story of a poor peasant who drifts into the city of Calcutta, and one night he is desperate to get a drink of water. Unable to get it, he enters a set of middle-class tenements to quench his thirst. He is found, and as he tries to escape, he enters from one household into another. And after a poor box office opening in India, the film got vindicated when it went on to receive a major award at the Karlovy Vary Film Festival. Down south, the family drama, the emerging nuclear family, the breakdown of the joint family and its associated feudal values become a very strong focal point for film scripts generated here. And one of the filmmakers who went out to make strong films on these themes was P. Bhim Singh. In his films like Panama Pasama and Pao Manipur, he heralded a new style of film narration. These stories were packed with subplots, and the viewers were given more than their money's worth. In Pao Manipur, Bhim Singh addresses several issues concerning values for proper nationhood at the same time. His films were strong advocates for the perpetuation of good, wholesome joint families, in which the patriarch should be benevolent and respectful of women's role in a family. And in the same way, he is also concerned about the position of servants working for the family. These highly idealistic feudal positions are merged with yet another complex theme, namely the brotherhood of mankind, which surpasses all religious barriers and brings them all together under the umbrella of one family.
நான் அன்றும் அவரை கொலை செய்ய முற்படவில்லை, இன்றும் கொலை செய்ய வரவில்லை. சிறையிலிருந்து திரும்பிய நான் கண்ட எனது குப்பத்து மக்களின் நிலைதான் என்னை குழப்பத்தில் ஆழ்த்தி நீங்கள் கொலைகாரன் என்று முடிவு கட்டும் நிலைக்கு என்னை இங்கே கொண்டு வந்து நிறுத்தி இருக்கிறார்.
All said and done, the most romantic filmmaker among them all was Gurudutt. In fact, his films were very personal, or should one say, a bit too personal. He saw most of his films a reflection of his own persona.
ये महलों, ये तख्तों, ये ताजों की दुनिया, ये इंसान के दुश्मन समाजों की दुनिया.
The metaphor of a good Indian for Gurudutt was the passionate artist, selfless and disinterested in material benefits. But when the poor artist is trampled, he does not refrain from making his protest felt.
के भूखे रवाजों की दुनिया, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है.
The important thing to note here is that these social issue films were made within the Indian mainstream film context, and therefore they had a very strong influence on all filmmakers in India. Unfortunately, these films were also considered too commercial and therefore not fit to be shown in international film festivals abroad, where Japanese mainstream films participated and won the acclaim that they deserved. Certainly, one is not trying to compare the merits and the demerits or compare the great Japanese masters with Indian mainstream filmmakers. Certainly, these two filmmakers come from radically different economic, social and cultural backgrounds. But all said and done, time has mellowed down these prejudices. Today, the films of Raj Kapoor, Bimal Roy and Gurudutt are being studied by film scholars and cineasts all over the world, for they find in these films valuable information about social, cultural and anthropological aspects of the people of India. So on this happy note, I bid you goodbye.